Wouldn't gaming be in a better place if publishers would stop killing games? Or even better, if during the development of those games they were to prepare for the inevitability of what is going to happen when they shut their online servers down? Because make no mistake, this is the future for pretty much every single game that has an online-only component to it. Eventually, the publishers are going to come out with some bullshit PR speak message where they're going to give you the equivalent of, hey boys, it's been real, but quite simply, this cow ain't putting out milk like he used to, and therefore we're going to take her out back behind the shed and shoot her in the face. And at that point, what happens to the players? They lose access to a video game that they bought for their hard-earned money. This is the main topic that the Stop Killing Games initiative is trying to tackle. So this is an initiative that is being led by Ross, which is the gentleman here on the left, Ross of Accursed Farms. He started this in response to Ubisoft essentially killing off The Crew. The Crew is a video game that is basically a car video game, but it's always online, despite the fact that the large majority of its content can be enjoyed in single player. But Ubisoft, being Ubisoft, they just decided, you know what? We really don't care. We're going to shut this down and you're going to lose access to the game. And the interesting thing about the Ubisoft situation is not only they shut it down, they literally went over and they revoked your license. Okay? So if you have this game on like Uplay or something like that, they literally removed it from your library. You can't even install it to look at the main menu of the game anymore. It is gone. And so this initiative is trying to address that, is trying to address the problem of what happens when online-only games get shut down. And is there something that we can do? It's basically trying to get the ball rolling to potentially get some legislation in Europe, which naturally will have repercussions to all the other markets of the world. Because if they have to implement stuff for Europe, it just makes sense to implement it in other locations as well. But again, the main purpose of this initiative is to get the ball rolling to start a conversation. Now, this is not the first time that I ran into this. This was suggested as a topic for one of my cans anvils whenever the Stop Killing Games initiative initially came out. And I remember looking at it and I was like, okay, I need to take a long, hard look at this because obviously there's going to be legal ramifications. And if there's one thing we can count on our governments being is wildly incompetent and misinterpreting things and yada, yada, yada. So basically I was like, okay, let me, give me some time. I'll look over this. But being a father of 2 children and trying to keep up with content creation and all of that stuff makes it almost impossible for me to follow up on all of this stuff. So I kind of kept kicking the can down the road. And now that this is getting increased momentum, and we're going to be talking as to why, because it's actually quite the interesting phenomenon, as well as the official response from some of these publishers, which is also very hilarious. But, you know, now I've decided, okay, let me take another look at it. I've actually signed the petition earlier today. This is the thing. I removed my signature identifier. I don't know if you guys would actually be able to do anything with that. But yeah, I've signed the initiative earlier today because, again, the purpose of this is to get the ball rolling, to start talking about potential legislation. It is not actually meant as something like, okay, we need to come up with legislation right now. I need to figure this out right now. So it's to get the ball rolling. And I think it is important to do that. Now, I understand that right now we are at 1,198,000 signatures, but that does not mean that you shouldn't sign the petition. It is still important to sign a petition because a lot of signatures can be falsified. A lot of signatures can be improperly filled out. There's a lot of situations that can happen that might require additional signatures. So having additional signatures is always a good thing. I'm going to have a link to Stop Killing Games in the description of this video so that you guys can go check it out for yourselves. And I would recommend that you sign this petition if you are an EU citizen. Now, there's also a petition if you happen to live in the UK, and there's also another one if you happen to live in France, and I would recommend whichever one you can participate in, go ahead and do that. Talk to your family, get them involved if needed be. I've already gotten the wife involved as well, and I'm going to see if I can get my parents to sign it. Basically, I'm trying to get this to as many people as possible to spread the word and get them to sign this up because we all want this is extremely important for video game preservation. We want these games to last for a long time, beyond their shelf expectancy. And I'm going to be giving you a very specific example here soon because obviously this started because of The Crew, But there's an interesting development that happened the last couple of days that is, in fact, quite interesting. So yes, I would recommend checking it out. I support the initiative. I think that this is a good thing, and hopefully we'll have good things come out of it. But for now, the only thing that is needed is more signatures to ensure that the thing passes, then basically to, have a safeguard in case anybody filled out their information wrong, or if there's people from the US playing around with VPNs and trying to add more signatures into the pile that are not going to be valid, because, Europe, when they look at this, they're going to basically shut it down if there's a bunch of fake signatures. So do not actually sign unless you are a European citizen or a UK citizen in the UK one, or a French citizen in the France one. Okay. Anyway, beyond that, let's talk a little bit about how this got its momentum back, because this actually got stopped when it initially came out, and it stopped at around the latest numbers before it got its second wind was around 500,000 signatures, and it needs at least 1 million to be seen by EU. What happened was, shortly after the initiative came out, which again, this is Ross, the person who came up with this whole shindig. This person over here, Pirate Software, also known as Thor Online, came out against it. His phrasing was, "This can eat my entire ass," or something along those lines. And Pirate Software being a tremendously influential figure, naturally this caused a bit of it slowed down the momentum of the petition. And so recently what happened was Ross came out and he made a video talking about the Pirate Software interpretation of what the Stop Killing Games initiative is. But in the middle of that, something very important also happened, which is Thor was involved in a lot of drama. Specifically, I think what started it all is the World of Warcraft hardcore dungeon situation, where Thor was kind of like roaching out on his party. For those of you that don't understand, World of Warcraft hardcore means whenever your character dies, it's dead for good. You lose your character and all the hours that you've spent working on that character, which is particularly important when you're talking about World of Warcraft Classic, because it takes quite a bit of time to get a character, to be able to do endgame and all of that stuff. And that's kind of like what they were doing. They were doing close to endgame activities, and they were in this dungeon, Dire Maul. And, I've seen that clip a bunch of times. I don't necessarily think it's all Pirate Software's fault of what happened there, because whenever you're in a hardcore dungeon and somebody starts screaming, "Run, run, run, run! Oh my God, we're all gonna die!" and you just see like your shot caller panicking, it's like, oh, this is not going good. I better get the hell out of here. But Pirate Software roached the hell out on his group. Absolutely, I still think that the fault there probably lies with the shot caller. But Pirate Software then came out and it was like, not my fault, got nothing to do with this, but took absolutely no accountability whatsoever. Then he changed his tune a little bit, but the damage had already been done. So people have been digging into Pirate Software, and then they found out that potentially he looked up stuff before he did playthroughs on YouTube that were supposed to be like blind playthroughs, but maybe he looked up the solutions to the puzzle to actually seem more smarter than he was. Then they started looking into people that he hired in the past, and it's like they really started digging deep into Pirate Software, and a lot of this kind of like made it so that he took a major hit in his credibility. And now Ross, because of the fact that the Stop Killing Games initiative was coming to a halt because it ends at the end of July, he made a video talking about all the stuff. And the reason he didn't want to do this video before is because he didn't want it to get involved in drama. But seeing that his initiative was kind of like halting on its tracks, he figured, I'm going to give it one last ditch effort because he already put so much effort into it. And he addressed all the Pirate Software, claims about the stuff that he didn't like about the bill. I keep calling it a bill because of like all the bill drama in the US, whatever. The initiative, the European Citizens Initiative of Stop Destroying Video Games. Okay. So, and what happens with this, right? Because the internet and gaming community as a whole right now is kind of like with a big negative sentiment towards Thor. The fact that Thor's claims on the initiative made it kind of like halt in its tracks, made the internet kind of rally against that and signed a petition almost just to spite Thor. At least that's the interpretation that I'm getting from this whole situation. It definitely feels like Thor gave this a second wind because everybody likes pooping on the villain, and Thor kind of became the villain in the Stop Killing Games initiative. And it definitely shows you that people are much more willing to engage negatively when it comes online than necessarily engage positively, which is an interesting thing to discuss maybe in a future video. But basically, Pirate Software became the perfect storm, which gave the Stop Killing Games initiative a second wind. But yeah, that's kind of like the lore. That's kind of what's happening. I still recommend check it out for yourself. Link in the description. Please do sign it. Tell your family to sign it. Tell your relatives to sign it. If you are an EU citizen, a UK citizen, or a French citizen, nobody else, don't fake signatures. Okay, very important. Do not fake signatures on this. But naturally, the publishers, seeing that, oh my God, this thing is actually getting quite a bit of steam, we need to see if we can shut it down. They're not the brightest, okay? They're not sending their best. This was their statement. This is from Video Games Europe, which, in case you're wondering, well, who the hell is Video Games Europe? Here's their board. Hester Woodliff, who is chair, she is of Warner Brothers Games Initiative. You know them from bangers like Just Killed the Justice League, whatever it's called. It's called Suicide Squad Killed the Justice League. They've also done some cool stuff in the past, but they've been kind of like fumbling quite a bit. Then we also have Ken and Pence from Epic Games, Henry Hopkins from Electronic Arts. Why would Electronic Arts want us to, want this initiative to not work out so well? We also have people from Activision, Embracer Group, Microsoft, who recently fired over 9,000 people of their staff. We also have Nintendo of Europe, who is raising the prices of video games to $80. And we have people from Sony Interactive, Take-Two, Ubisoft, who recently had 3 former executives guilty of sexual misconduct, which is phenomenal. We also have Bandai Namco Entertainment, Square Enix, Level Infinite, so on and so forth. But basically, these are people that have in their best interest to not have more legislation on top of them. They want to be free to milk their player base for as much as they want, and they don't want to have any responsibility of maintaining their video games once this stuff comes to an end. So what was their brilliant statement? We appreciate the passion of our community. However, the decision to discontinue online services is multifaceted, never taken lightly, and must be an option for companies when an online experience is no longer commercially viable. We understand that it can be disappointing for players, but when it does happen, the industry ensures that players are given fair notice of the prospective changes in compliance with local consumer protection laws. What does this mean? We're going to shut down your game, but hey, at least we told you well in advance that it was going to happen. Private servers are not always a viable alternative option for players, as the protections we put in place to secure players' data, remove illegal content, and combat unsafety community content would not exist and would leave rights holders liable. In addition, many titles are designed from the ground up to be online only. In effect, these proposals would curtail developer choice by making these video games prohibitively expensive to create. I wholeheartedly disagree with the concept of private servers not being a viable alternative. They absolutely are, because guess what the alternative is? The alternative is it's gone. If I have to choose between a video game being gone and being relegated to private servers, I will choose private servers every step of the way, every single time, no hesitation whatsoever. And about you guys being liable, I highly doubt anybody's going to go harass Blizzard over some private server that somebody made for World of Warcraft. I don't think that's going to happen. And if it does happen, it'd be pretty fucking stupid. So has there ever even been a situation where this has happened? Let me know in the comment section down below, because usually, when there's way more people watching videos and stuff, you guys are going to know more stuff than me, but I don't remember this ever happening. Like somebody protesting the original publisher of an MMO over something that they've experienced in a private server. But anyways, it's dumb. And then they say, we welcome the opportunity to discuss our position with policymakers and those who have led the European Citizens Initiative in the coming months. Yeah, right. You welcome the opportunity to lobby the fuck out of everybody and grease the palms of people in the European, whatever, wherever they're going to be discussing this, and basically trying to get something done that is not in everybody's best interest. Because would you be surprised if when this initiative started gaining momentum, what was one of the first things that Electronic Arts thought to do? Hey guys, listen. So we see that there might be some legislation coming up soon that's going to prevent us from doing this. So we're just going to go ahead and do it now. We're going to shut down Anthem. We're just going to shut that bitch down. Boom, done. Bam. January 12th, 2026. Might be completely unrelated, but the timing sure is interesting. Not only that, but also provides us with a really cool example, because Anthem is a game that I think really sucks is going away. I really enjoyed the gameplay of Anthem. I know that it's a big meme. Nobody likes Anthem. Everybody hates Anthem. And what I can tell you about Anthem is that when it comes to its flight mechanics, I've never seen a video game do flight quite as well as Anthem does it. Like, the Iron Man experience is all there. It was phenomenal. It was fantastic. The big problems there was that, quite simply, there wasn't enough content. The game was rushed out the door. All of the usual stuff that tends to happen with live service video games. But yeah, Anthem is shutting down in January 12th, 2026. And let me also just posit that this would be very, very easy to transform into a single player game with optional multiplayer. Don't believe me? Let's talk about it. So there was this video game that I talked a lot about in the channel. This is a fantastic game. It is currently still available, but this video game is called Wayfinder. So let me tell you guys a little bit about the story of Wayfinder. Wayfinder was a video game that was being published by Digital Extremes. You might have heard of them. They are the same people behind Warframe. And what happened there is, at some point during this, for starters, they made this whole new server structure just for Wayfinder. Like, they built a new server technology because Warframe is apparently mostly peer-to-peer, and they wanted to change that and have like this server infrastructure for Wayfinder that they could use in other games. So that meant Wayfinder was not going to be peer-to-peer. It was going to have like its own dedicated servers. So what happens was Wayfinder launches and it explodes because the servers weren't able to handle the load of players that were excited to jump into Wayfinder. This is where the meme Waitfinder began, because people were waiting to jump into Wayfinder. Then it would jump into Wayfinder, play for like 5 minutes, get disconnected, go back to queue, done, right? Huge problems. But the game itself was actually phenomenal. But anyways, somewhere along the way, Digital Extremes was like, you know what? Screw all this. We're not publishing third-party games anymore. We're kind of done with this whole publishing shindig. And basically, they went to Airship Syndicate, which is the studio behind Wayfinder, and said, hey guys, how about you guys go pound sand? Okay, bye, peace out. And they got rid of them. And at this point, Airship Syndicate's like, oh crap, because our stuff is run on their servers. What's going to happen now? So they went ahead and they implemented a plan, and within 3 months, they converted this always online video game, okay? Very important. Always online video game. Fundamentally something kind of like Warframe. And they converted that into a single player game with optional co-op. It took them 3 months. And that guy's like, well, Airship Syndicate must have a massive team. 50 people. A team of 50 converted this multiplayer online only game into a single player game in 3 months. By the way, at the same time, they were updating the online only version with new content, and they were also adding new content to the single player version as well. So when they actually when they actually fixed everything and they released the single player version, which is called Wayfinder Echoes, they had also developed a whole new zone, a bunch of new dungeons, and a bunch of new content. So again, I just want to make sure you guys understand. A team of 50 people converted this game from online only multiplayer to single player with optional co-op, peer-to-peer, and at the same time they also developed a bunch of new content and were providing support to their online only version. 3 months. That's how long it took them. Now, naturally, BioWare is a team that is a little bit bigger Just smidge bigger. Just a smidge bigger. But, I would wager that within the space of like 1 or 2 months, they could have probably fixed this up. And they might have even added a little bit of content, and they would have made it single player, and they would have fixed it. It was perfectly doable, no harm, no foul. But that's not the only solution. If you want to be a lazy bum, which is what a lot of these publishers want to be, the people who made this statement right here. If you want to be a lazy fucking bum, and you don't want to put any work into it, there's another solution. Actually, I just realized that I really negatively loaded something that is a positive thing. But anyway, Spellbreak, not lazy bums, really cool people. The people behind Spellbreak, Proletariat, they were acquired by Blizzard to go develop stuff for World of Warcraft. And so they had an online-only video game called Spellbreak. And so what they did was, because they weren't going to be able to support that game anymore with updates and all of that stuff, and therefore they would have to shut down the official servers, so on and so forth, what they did was they made a peer-to-peer version and released it on itch.io. Game preserved, problem solved, okay? Now it's up to the players, like, hey, we got to find 30 people or however many people you need to actually be able to play the game, but the solution is there. The community can now host their own stuff, do their own thing. Like, look, there's a client version, there's a server version. This is all people want, okay? So, like, something that Anthem could have done is like, okay, here's server code, boom, done. You can host your own Anthem server, figure it out, do the thing yourself. And it's done. And here's the interesting thing. There are other games that are doing this. Like, for instance, Palworld. Palworld, when it released on Steam, this is a game that can be played single player, but it can also be played multiplayer. But the interesting thing about Palworld is that even if you want to play multiplayer, you can host your own server, which, by the way, when Palworld came out, I actually hosted a server for me and 2 friends. So that we'd always have like this world server online the whole time. And I was hosting it on my streaming rig. And that was it. Like, whenever we wanted to play, they would just connect directly to my PC. Problem solved. And we had our own multiplayer experience, which will outlast the actual profitability of Palworld. So long after Palworld stops being profitable, I will still be able to host a Palworld server, because that is something that the developers allowed for the players to do from the beginning. You want to know another game that does that? Enshrouded. Again, another game that has multiplayer capabilities, and they've given the players the... Enshrouded is even better. I don't know if Palworld has peer-to-peer, but Enshrouded is even better because it just allows you to peer-to-peer connect to people. So you don't even need a dedicated server. But if you want a dedicated server, they give you that option as well. Guess what? Valheim, I don't actually know. I haven't played Valheim, but I've been told Valheim does the same thing. This isn't like some crazy technology that is going to take them forever to understand. It's going to cost millions to solve. It's just bullshit PR speak. If these teams can do it, I'm sorry, brother. There's nothing that Warner Brothers or Electronic Arts or whoever else the fuck wants to talk about this can say to be against, this is going to be really bad if we have to act. They're just being lazy. Lazy. Okay? Ubisoft could have easily solved this problem probably in less than a month. Okay? And the hit that they've taken from this, which is probably not even that massive of a hit, the hit that they've taken from this, from the crew situation and all of that, is probably much bigger than what they would have taken if they're just like, hey, Bob. They just go like the Bob the intern. Or actually it's French, so it would be Le Bob. Le Bob, go ahead and fix this so that it can be only run single player. Bob would spend like a week being a code monkey, figuring it out. Hey, it's done, solved. Patch the game, boom, done. You can now play the game forever. Do your thing, have fun, enjoy. We're going to shut down the servers though, no more multiplayer, but you guys can still play it single player. It was literally that easy, okay? And nobody can convince me otherwise. But anyways, like I said, link in the description. I just want to talk a little bit about this and show you guys that this is not as hard as these fucks are making it out to be. They're just lying to you and being lazy. But yeah, that's it. I'll see you guys in the next one. Stay strong, stay safe. Peace out.